Hello, guys. Happy Friday. Oh, sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I was running behind this morning. Actually, I've been trying to get a lot of the final DIY hook orders out. So yesterday was the final day to purchase your hook for the DIY hook challenge this year. So, getting all of those orders out and going to the post office today. So, super excited about that. Okay. All right, so hello everyone. I see we've got a lot of people joining in. I am super excited about today's chat. It is Make New Friends, Pink Sheep and Friends Friday, whatever you want to call it, that we are now doing weekly with wonderful maker guests from all over and who do all different kinds of things. And so today we are going to be going live with Laura of Slipped Stitch Studios. So I'm super excited to chat with her. And I'm glad to have you guys all here today. So I've got most of my questions ready. Let's see. All right, got my coffee. All right, and let's see if we can bring her on. Oh, and she's already ahead of the game and has requested to. Thank you. Okay, let's see if this will work. Hello.
Hi.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna just pull my video up a little bit. There we go. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm actually going to turn up my volume a little bit. Let's see. Let's make sure. Okie dokie. That should be better. Okay. Well, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Are you doing? Yes, are you doing okay this morning? Everything good this afternoon? I know it's not morning, but
Oh, it's morning here. It's still 10. Don't take away my Friday yet, okay?
right, I know.
We're not rushing through that.
Well, and I don't think I've had anyone on who's on the West Coast in a while. So the last couple people I've had, I think, have either been in the same time zone as me or they're on the East Coast. So then it's even later. So then I'm like, good morning. I'm like, it's not even morning here, but I've still got coffee. So it feels like morning.
Cheers.
Yep. Cheers. It's funny because I've been feeling a little under the weather and it says that when you're not feeling too good, you shouldn't drink coffee. And I tried so hard this morning. I have it over here. This is a whole nother mug of tea that I tried to make myself drink this morning. And I got about halfway through it and I started brewing the coffee again.
You know, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I came down with something like 2 weeks ago and I've just been like, it's been like lingering. And today is my first cup of coffee in 2 weeks. And I was literally like, you know what? I'm going to make myself better. It's probably because I haven't been having my coffee.
Exactly. Exactly.
Body knows.
No. And I think I've gotten to a point too. It's funny because I always used to be that kind of, I always thought that like death before decaf thing was really funny, but I've realized now I just like the taste of coffee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm totally fine. If I don't want to have the caffeine, I can do decaf and it's perfectly fine because it's warm and it's coffee and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I've been playing around tweaking it too because, you know, there's always that stuff about coffee. And it's like, I have this really great coffee that I've been getting at my local market called, I think it's called Genius Coffee.
Mhm.
And they have like 3 or 4 different kinds, and I like 2 of them really a lot. There's one that's called Genius Coffee that has like turmeric and cinnamon in it,
Wow.
and it has
Yeah.
MCT oil and some B vitamins as well. That one just shoots me all day long. I'm just
Yeah.
like happy. I just my 1 cup and I'm good to go. And then I recently switched because I had been drinking that one for a while. I switched over to their other flavor, which was called Focus, and it has like mushrooms in it and different kinds of vitamins like that.
Okay.
And I mean, it is so good. It's like
Yeah.
medicine. Actually, today I feel so much better today drinking my coffee than I have in the last 2 weeks. I'm sure that's what it is. It's coffee. I'm sure of it.
So, so with the ones you're talking about, are they the type that you brew yourself, or is it like a cold brew where you pour it? Like, how does that work with those?
It's a brew yourself. I do French press, but this is
Okay.
actually I found they had like an instant brand. It's called VitaCup. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, Forgot about that. I have this on my table because, just in case I needed to like pour it in really quick and drink it. I don't, it's just sitting here. Just, for
That's
emergencies.
really cool though. Yeah, I think the only coffee I've been buying lately is it's Cafe Bustelo. It's like the big yellow can or the brick of coffee. So I usually buy it by the brick.
Yeah.
But I haven't branched out in a while. I got like comfortable with it and now that's pretty much it. But usually I'll try to keep some good decaf around in case I just need a break from the caffeine, or like at night if I want coffee at night and I don't want it to
Yeah.
keep me up. That's
Chai
nice.
is my favorite for that. Chai is my alternative. Like it's the only tea that I've found that that I can drink that makes me not feel like I just drink hot water.
Yeah,
you know?
that's usually how I feel. Alrighty, well, let's chat a little bit about fiber and yarn and crochet and knitting. So I usually start these out with just a quick intro. So if you just want to tell everybody, in case they aren't following you, who you are, and what you do, and then we'll dive into some more questions.
Okay. Well, I'm the owner designer person
Mhm.
of Slip Stitch Studios. I've been doing it for 15 years, and you can see me on Instagram at Slip Stitch, two P's and an ED, because I'm complicated apparently. Having to explain that every time I tell somebody my email address is like my favorite. I'm like, why
Yeah,
did I name such a big name
yeah.
with all these S's? So but yeah, and what I do is I design intuitive knitting and crochet project bags, organizational tools, different tools basically for knitters and crocheters, and even in the past I've done stuff for spinners, just for fiber artists, things that personally I might have had a problem with, like like maybe losing a stitch or having my yarn turn into a mass of barf,
Mhm.
or just not having the proper way to keep track of my patterns and things like that. So I just kind of became a problem solver, and figured out how to solve these problems. And so I started when my daughter was a little baby, and she's 14 now, and it's kind of crazy. But
Yeah,
yeah, so it's just been evolving doing that for the last 15 years.
that's awesome. And I think that's where a lot of businesses, I feel like, especially successful businesses, form when you figure out a problem and you can figure out a good way to solve it. So it's always fun to hear how that works for different people. So,
Definitely.
when did I always like hearing kind of the origin story. So when did you learn how to knit and crochet?
I learned how to knit and crochet back in, it was about 2006. I was working in a company that was a CPA company, and I
Mhm.
was on track to become a financial advisor. And somebody had joined our team, and she and I kind of hit it off and decided to take lunches together and go to the local craft shop and learn how to knit. Well, actually, we decided we were going to learn how to crochet first,
Uh-huh.
and that didn't go well. Because they gave me the option to pick out whatever project I wanted without like any like, hey, maybe just start with like a square.
Right?
And so I was like, yeah, I want this like 4-foot bunny. That sounds amazing. And so I went to like 2 classes with this like, I mean, I think about it now, and I'm like, it was shaped like a bunny head. But I was, making
Mhm.
the stuff, and
Uh-huh.
I'm just getting so frustrated not being able to find where the loops were, that I was just not having as much fun as I wanted to. And the lady that was doing the class was kind of like, maybe you'd be happier trying out knitting first, and then move back into crochet. I think she did try to tell me that my project was hard, and I was just like, la la la. Uh, I like the big bunny, okay?
Yeah.
I don't even know why. It's just some random bunny. I'm like, yeah, that. So yeah. So then I moved over into the knitting class with the girl that I was with because she was also struggling, and we had this amazing elderly woman from South Africa with that strong accent, and she was so mean. It was it was so horrendous. I learned knitting by fire because I was like, she was like, you're not even going to be back next week.
Yeah.
She literally was like, yeah, you're not going to be back next week. I was like, but, and then I was trying to pick out yarn for my project, and I of course picked out Lion Brand Homespun, right? It was pretty. They had like pretty, it was pretty.
Yeah. So pretty.
And it was very fibrous. I don't know if you guys remember Lion Brand Homespun. I don't even know if it's still around anymore, but it's basically just fiber wrapped with one string. Okay, that's all you get. One string. And anything touches that and it's just gonna and you're gonna split that yarn is what she kept telling me. You're gonna split that yarn. And so of course I left with the big, hank of Lion Brand Homespun and came back the following session, which was 1 week, with I think it was like a 30-foot scarf or something, like a literal 30-foot scarf. Like I wrapped it around me like 30.
That's amazing. You can hide.
I still have it. Yeah, I could have like totally, and I came back with it, and I was just like, now show me how to bind off. And so she was like, okay. Well, that class was a lot bigger than the class I had been in before. So it was before it was just like 2 people. And this class had like maybe 5 or 6 people. So she showed me to bind off, and I keep, I have my knitting needles right here. So I kept kind of putting my, and I still do this, by the way, kind of just like this, right? Right? Because, like when you're knitting, let me see.
Oh, yeah.
So you kind of like just, let's see, just right there. Just like, that's my little spot, right? Like, hold my split. I don't have 20 hands, you guys. So I'm like sitting here like, okay, all right, cool. I got this. She literally stops the class. And she goes, everyone look at Laura. She's boob knitting. That's boob knitting. That's not how you knit. I was literally like, why does this lady hate me so much? Turns out she hates me.
Well, I feel like I'm surprised. I feel like for some people, they would not continue to remain in the community after an experience like that.
Me, I'm like, no.
You're determined.
You.
Yeah.
Try to stop me from getting all right. Yeah, no, that was a very strong experience that that I felt like I earned my stars, and after that, after I got the basics of knit and purl down, I went on meetup.com and I found a local knitting group, and it was such an amazing experience to have that local knitting group. That was profound. I mean, I didn't have this is before my daughter or anything like that, so I had never really had a community type idea. In fact, I had always wondered, like, how do you make friends after high school? Like exactly how does that work? And it works like that, and it was amazing. And the amount of like people that to this day still hold a really special place in my heart that I met through that group is just amazing. They were there for me when I got pregnant. They were there for me when my baby was born. They were there for me when I lost my job when my baby was born, because the CPA firm had never had a mom before, so they had kind of no real protocol for dealing with maternity leave and all that stuff. So I hired 2 people to fill my position temporarily, which of course I had, in my, which they said, pregnancy brain had just gotten really worried that they were going to not let me come back. I was
Yeah.
like, you guys are making me give away the keys to the castle here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be gone for 8 weeks. And, you know, things happen. And that's exactly what happened. And within 8 weeks after having my kid, they found a little way to let me go. And I, you know, I was young, I was like 20, 24, maybe 25. And I didn't really know what to do. And nor did I want to get into a legal situation or anything like that. So it was a blessing because I was able to take about 10 months of unemployment because it was right at the recession in 2008, you know,
Wow.
and so they were actually adding unemployment. So I was able to take about 10 months of unemployment, which I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know that they were going to give you more money. I just saw the number was gone and I thought, oh God, my unemployment's over. And that was at the end of 2008. My daughter was like 8 or 9 months old at that point. It was wonderful because I did get to stay home. But then I had to sit there and figure out like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Because now I have a baby and how am I going to, you know, juggle this in order, because we need a double income in California in order to survive. It's just not even a, you know, question. Unless I, you know, married up, which I didn't. So, you know, so so I started to look for a job, and at that point, you know, I was making probably close to $20 an hour at that, or a little over $20 an hour when I was in maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to hire me for more than $15 an hour, and to take that kind of a pay decrease plus, you know, childcare, because
Exactly.
it just seemed insane. I was like, wait, so I'm gonna get paid like $4 an hour and I gotta pay somebody else to like take care of my child all day? Like, this is insane. The system in this country is absolutely nuts. And personally, I would love to change it if I could. But my knitting group was incredibly supportive. And I had expressed the desire to learn how to sew.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gone to Stitches West for my first time that year and been absolutely astounded by the amazing creativity of all the vendors there. And I remember walking through those aisles at Stitches West. It had to be 2008, I think. And just literally, it was, because it was right before my daughter was born, and she's born in February. And every year after that, Stitches is during her birthday. So, so it was like right before she was born, I went to Stitches West. But yeah, it just, seeing everybody being able to make a living with their craft, it just inspired a whole side of my brain. I just couldn't even, you know. So by the end of the year, one of my knitting friends, Diane, she was this amazing person. She offered to teach me how to sew, and I just had been gifted a free sewing machine. Well, the sewing machine didn't work, so, you know, that was fun. It was broken. So, but Diane and I, we waited till after nap time. We put my daughter in the car and we go over to Joann's, and we ended up buying a Husqvarna sewing machine. And she showed me how to thread it, which I thought I would never, ever, ever memorize ever. I was pretty sure that it was like one of those things that I was gonna like be like, are you gonna like come over every time? Because I don't know what to do. This is crazy.
I have to say, with threading the sewing machine, it's one of those things that is kind of like riding a bike, because it's one of the things I still remember how to do. And I'm like, I don't know how I remember how to do this, but I can thread my sewing machine, even if I haven't used it in years.
Right. It's crazy. It's so interesting. So it's one of those things where it was just like, wow, that's crazy. So I started with just buying like the remnants over at Joann's, and we were having our knitting meetups at this local craft shop called Red Bee, and they had little fabric remnants too. So I was always getting the best stuff because they'd put them on sale, and we'd be sitting there knitting. I'd be like, mine. Yeah. So I found like all these great fabrics, and I started making just different kind of shaped project bags, and I was inspired by Chica bags. I liked her bags the most, but I didn't like the vinyl at the bottom. And then there were a couple other little things that I wasn't super into, but I was just kind of like, okay, I like this design. Let me see how I can improve it, or what because I was using her bag originally as my project bag. And Chica knows this too. I had to go tell her. I was like, "You inspired my business." Um, but but yeah, so I just started making stuff, and my knitting group was so supportive. They were very loving and bought my first project bags, and then I went on Etsy, and I think I got my first Etsy sale within like about a week of posting
Mhm.
them up, and that is just a high that I don't think anybody can really, explain until you know, that first item that you sell. It's like,
Yeah.
oh God, this is real. Like somebody wants to buy the stuff I'm making. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So so yeah, so that's it started like that, and then, there've been a lot of ups and downs, and for sure,
Mhm.
like, the first year was really rocky. Not really sure how I got through it, except for about 8 months into it, 6 months into it, I think. Wool Girl, who has a box or had a box, I don't know if she still does it. I haven't seen her in a while, but Wool Girl had a box, a monthly box of knitting and fun stuff,
Mhm.
just something real fun that everybody would
Yeah.
love. And she reached out to me for like 75 project bags.
Mhm.
And it changed everything. I had to upscale in order to keep up, and that gave me it was just like, like one little thing, and then it gives you a little bit more room, and then the next thing, and then it gives you a little bit more room. And as long as you're motivated and just really know what you want,
Mhm.
starting a business is a wild ride.
Yeah.
It's definitely exhilarating in a lot of ways. And if you can fight the mental, the oh crap, nobody's ever, like, I remember going,
Yeah.
what if everybody buys one project bag in the world and then I'm done?
Yeah.
I,
Exactly. Yeah.
that thought came a lot because I was going to sell one to every person, 7 billion, and I wasn't going to need, and I was still going to need and
Mhm.
sell more project bags.
Mhm. Yeah. Duh.
You the brain does some crazy stuff to you, that's for sure.
So, and all of this was happening. So, timeline wise, when you started, so obviously the knitting group just remained there. I mean, that was something that was solid through this whole process before you were pregnant, once you started, looking for another job and then trying to figure this out. Did you ever have to take another job at that lower pay point, or did it just flow directly into you starting to make these bags and you just made it work?
It flowed.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to cash out my 401k, and we had to be, chill on a lot of stuff. And it was, there was a lot of budgeting and changing things. But in the end, I just kept thinking, as long as I was able to stay home with my daughter, like
Yeah.
I'm up, because not only do I get to be with my daughter, but at the same time, I'm not paying someone to do that. So
Yeah.
I just kept thinking, I've got to make this work. So the goals were like, okay, I would love it if I could make $100 a week, and
Yeah.
then it was
Yep.
like, I remember going, oh, it'd be so cool if I could just make one sale a day, just like
Yeah.
what if I just made like one sale a day?
Yeah.
you know and it just those little baby steps of like, how can I do that, and this was the infancy of Etsy, and I don't even know if Instagram existed back then.
Yeah.
but
I'm not sure when it started, but
yeah, facebook
yeah.
facebook was very helpful, and I was on Twitter
Mhm.
for a while, and yeah, so just try to use the social media to my advantage, and then just going to as many shows as possible, you know,
Yeah.
anytime there was a show. And I learned pretty quickly that shows that weren't knitting related or fiber related just were not my bag. Like they just were not selling. Like, okay, you want $20 for this fabric bag? And it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah. So looking back, like when you look back at how you got started and kind of the struggles that you went through and the things, things that you had to overcome, what do you feel like some of your either your one biggest piece of advice, or if you have a few pieces of advice that you would give people who may be in that point where, because this happened to a lot of people with COVID and losing their jobs and trying to figure out what they were going to do, or just changing their priorities and their outlooks on life, and people may be right where you were of like, this makes no sense for me to go back to work when I know I could do something from home, but it's scary, trying to take that jump. So what would you say to some of those people?
it's hard. Things have changed a lot since then, and you've got to just know like what you ultimately want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm actually kind of in the same boat right now because it's been 15 years, and I am looking at changing careers a little bit here, because things aren't the way that I set up my business isn't exactly gelling with the way that the world is going. So it's kind of just something that, you know, I think the biggest thing is I'm like, dude, you got me on like a serious moment here because
I
um
know.
because it is a very big deal in my life right now. I think the main thing is to really just know what you enjoy.
Yes.
Um, I have thoroughly enjoyed making things for fiber artists for the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have thoroughly enjoyed having conversations with fiber artists. I have thoroughly enjoyed uh, just the process. I love learning new things
Mm-hmm.
about uh, the fiber field. So I think you just need to find where your joy is.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, my joy is kind of moving more into gardening and planting, and I'm just really loving getting into the garden and being able to grow food. It's just like such a mind-blowing experience. It's like when I first knit my
Mm-hmm.
first thing, and I thought, you mean I don't have to pay $50 at Anthropology? Oh my
Yeah.
God, or hey, maybe they don't have my size and chest size and something, but now I can knit it,
Yeah.
and it's just such a beautiful, freeing moment. And I'm addicted to those. I love those little freeing moments where you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I don't have to like be like everything else. I can learn this my own way. So,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think you have to feel that freedom in something that makes you inspired, and you just can't stop learning about it. You just
Yeah.
want to keep learning, and once you find that, um, it all kind of goes together. It all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of comes together. You'll start to see, how did other people get a job in this field? How did they start their businesses in this field? What is their motivation? And you just start to glean, and YouTube's great for that. It's got great content for education. Instagram, there's tons of great videos now that Instagram's become more of a video
Mm-hmm.
medium, and there's so many people sharing their information now. I mean, I remember when it first started, I was like literally on YouTube scanning through, just trying to find a couple people talking about Etsy,
Yeah.
like how do you deal with the Etsy algorithms?
Yeah.
And now you can binge watch those all day and take notes
Mm-hmm.
and really, and that's what I do. Anytime that I start to feel like I don't understand something, like I really have to get to the reels and figure out how to, you know, do these newfangled contraptions on
Yeah.
Instagram here. But in the past I have, I just front load, just sit there and go, okay, well, how
Yeah.
do you do that? How do you,
Yeah.
and then see where the YouTube algorithms or the, whatever sends you kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think it's like you said, if you find something that you're passionate about and that you find joy in, then you're going to want to do the research. It's going to be, and it's like you said, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very time consuming, and you're going to have to put a lot of effort in to like figure things out on your own. Especially in the beginning when you can't just like hire someone to build your website, or because I'm not, at some point I would love to do that because my
Yeah,
website still makes me crazy, but
yeah.
when you're starting out, like a lot of it is on you and you have to figure that out. And I think what's interesting too, because I know that your business is in a transitional phase and you're trying to figure out what your life is going to look like as you move forward, what your business is going to look like. um, and I think that's something important to share with people, when it in the way of your life changes, and things aren't always going to stay the same. Your joy is not always going to be found in the same places. I equate it, obviously I have not had a successful business for 15 years, but I do know that for me, what I started out doing in the crochet world, which is going to craft shows and selling finished products, um, quickly realizing that that was not something that was going to be sustainable, and it was not healthy for my body. That was the point where my body was like, I can't make this much stuff. you
Yeah.
know, and things are going to change and you're going to have to learn how to adapt and pivot and be open to these new experiences and be open to saying, I know that I've done this for a long time, and I know even it maybe even it's successful, but am I still truly enjoying what I'm doing? Because if you're not, it's time to start looking at what that means. You know, does that mean going in a different direction? Does it mean just changing things a little bit and
Yeah.
focusing on different things? Um, but I can't imagine. I know we got to talk about it a little bit more, but when we chatted before this, but um, I think it's hard to, and this is what I wanted to kind of share with anyone who's listening or rewatching this is, you know, if I don't know, I just I'm losing it now because I feel like it's emotional too. But um, you know, I know you had to come out. You came out earlier on Instagram and kind of said, you know, I don't know if Slip Stitch Studios is going to remain what it is, if it's going to remain open, if I'm going to keep making things. And I know you talked a little bit about how, you know, you have kind of kept things going since then, but you've had people who have kind of reacted negatively to that in a way. And I think I wanted to speak on that a little because I just feel like we have to remember that, you know, you never know what people are going through personally when they're trying to deal with things. And we're all trying to communicate the best way that we can on this platform, especially platforms like Instagram that expect you to be as open and transparent as possible, when sometimes there's just no good way to do that because you can't share every emotion that's going through your head. You can't share every personal thing that's happening in your life. And so I think it just goes back to being kind to the people that we're supporting. You know, if you have been supporting someone for a long time and you know that they're going through something, like, you know, reach out and send them a message and remember that we all have to be kind to each other and we have to support each other and know that, like, we never really know exactly what every single person's going through and what that means for them. And it's just that, you know, I know that this community can be such a good and positive place, but it can also be a negative place at times. And, you know, if we can all do our little part to remember to just be kind to the people that are in the community and support them in the ways that we can, you know, I think that makes all the difference in the world for all of us, you know,
Definitely.
especially.
And that's the thing that brings everybody well, that I thought for a long time brought us all together in knitting is
Mhm.
it was, and I hate to use the word safe space because I'm not sure if that has other connotations, but it was a safe space.
Yeah.
And it can be and it is in many different ways. It's not always not a safe space or anything, but I'm just saying, like, it was just like a place when I first started where, you know, all the women in my group, we had such different backgrounds,
Hmm.
different backgrounds in all different ways. And I love that. I love that about knitting and about crochet and about our fiber um, community, because it showed me that we can come together on a belief system. Like, knitting and crochet is very liberating. Like, you can really, like, just create something that
Hmm.
other people feel like they have to pay for, or they have to
Hmm.
adhere to somebody else's pattern, and they have to be in their conformity. And I just love the idea that fiber artists are such open-minded people that we can go, yeah, but I bet you I can imagine that a little different and do it a
Yeah.
little, you know, and make it just perfect for the person I'm
Yeah.
making it for, me or whoever it is. And
Hmm.
it's such a wonderful creative experience. Honestly, it makes me so
Yeah.
happy when I see, like, I love how bright and colorful your Instagram is. It absolutely, I was just scrolling through it a few weeks ago when we connected, and I was like, dang, this is just this your whole, like, vibe is like super happy, and I just loved it so much. And it made me really, like, just glad to see people that are coming into the industry and adding that bit of sunshine and those smiling faces. And for a little while there, it got a little dark, I feel like, and maybe that was just my algorithm that Instagram was
Yeah.
showing me, and we all have to remember
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
um but yeah, I mean, it's just it's definitely has the potential to be an amazing just an amazing community, and a lot of times it is, a lot of
Yeah.
times it is. and
Yeah.
and these days we just have to try to be that person that makes it that way. And if each
Yeah.
one of us is trying to make it, like you said, like just be kind and realize that you only see one little piece. And if someone says something and it's like not the perfectly worded, orchestrated, transcript of perfection, there might be something behind that. And just taking a moment to realize that they're human too,
Yeah.
is a great way to start, I think. Um, yeah, I really love seeing the work that people who are trying to keep um, knitting and crochet the front of the community. Like that's the work that I just absolutely love, because we all need a little bit of a break from the craziness of the world right now, and that's where I think this should go. I think that's where the knitting and crochet industry is such a great vacation from is the rest of the world. You should be able to be like, all right, we're all safe and wonderfully and loved here.
So that actually is a good segue into, someone mentioned earlier is actually Mickey Otterly Yarn mentioned about how much she loves your jokes and things that you post on your Instagram page. And I would love to talk about that a little bit, because that's something I feel like most of the funny things I share in my stories are usually jokes from your feed. And it's been that way for a long time. Like, you always find the funniest memes and things like that to share. And I would love to know kind of where that started and what prompted you to include that in your feed as a main feature of your feed.
Yeah, back when I first started, in order to figure out how to use Instagram, I started my own personal Instagram, and just basically was using it through a transitional period in my life when I was going through my divorce, and just trying to like figure out exactly how to use Instagram. So I would, take selfies and post things that I was doing, so that I would just kind of, it turned into a place where I could look back and see all my happy moments, or see, a selfie that I liked about myself. So if I was feeling down or depressed, I could just kind of scroll through my feed, my little personal like depression stopper, just kind of like, look, life isn't so bad. Remember when you did that? That was fun.
Yeah.
Look at how cool that looked, And I started to figure out hashtags and things like that. And then I realized what a great opportunity Instagram was compared to Facebook. Because in Facebook, it seemed like you're kind of like friends with people and family, right? Like you're just like, and then you get their content. And your friends and family can have different tastes than you, and you're going to get their content.
Yeah.
At least that's how it used to be. Nowadays it's all, but that's how it used to be. And now, and then I went on Instagram, and it was like the content I got back was what I wanted. Like it was like a reflection of what I liked. And I thought that was pretty cool, because it was like, it could be scary, but like not, because it was like, I'm just getting my feedback back. Like, oh, why am I getting that? I must have liked something,
Yeah.
And I realized that, and I was like, okay, well, I got to figure out a good way to make my Instagram on my business side look like enjoyable, like, okay, here's a whole bunch of ads like buy my stuff, but at the same time it was like, wow, I want to add more value. In fact, that is when I started Instagram, that was during my period of really like understanding about like my goal as a business person is to add value. I'm not a corporation. I'm not sitting here trying to make $1 million. I don't, I'm not over here like trying to own the world. I just want to add value, and I really enjoyed the feeling I got when I made a joke and people enjoyed it, and someone it always made me so happy when somebody like, oh, I needed a laugh. I'm like, oh, you're welcome.
And I gave you that. Yes.
I'm so glad. So, because I know those days for sure. And so I saw, it was kind of funny when it happened, because I saw Rebel Circus. You may notice Rebel Circus has black background memes, okay? And this was way back when. I don't know if they still do it or anything. But I would see these ones, and they were so funny. So I started to save them because I was going to share them. They have their little watermark on it. I wasn't being sneaky. So I was going to share their stuff, and so I started a little file for it. My sister goes, these are really dark. Because they were kind of dark.
Yeah.
It's like Rebel Circus is kind of like, yes, you know, lots of murder and stabbing, which
Mm-hmm.
if you see my earlier memes, there's a lot of murder and stabbing in them because I was
Mm-hmm.
inspired by it. But it was funny, you know, it's like, you know, I knit, so I don't murder, you know, kind
Yeah.
of thing, which
Mm-hmm.
is true, not as dark when you think, at least I have my knitting. So,
Yeah. Well, and
but
I feel like a lot of knitters and crocheters listen to the what is it, the podcasts that are like the crime
oh,
podcast.
yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
it's very, I mean,
When you're
there's
knitting and
definitely a
yeah,
connection. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I just tried to share what was funny to me, but wasn't too dark. Like I would, you
Yeah.
know, and then I started to recognize that I could, pretty much like any meme can be a knitting meme if you try hard enough, like or a crochet,
Yeah.
crafty,
Yep.
and and I just started to have a little fun with it. So I'd see a funny like meme about plants or about coffee or about whatever, and I would just kind of like, oh, that'd be funny if it was. I'm like, how
Mm-hmm.
can that be, you know, switched over to the fiber, you know? And so I would just have some fun with it. And what I really liked was how it showed up on my Instagram, kind of checkered. So I just
Mm-hmm.
started with that. And that gave me what I wanted, which was something so that when you looked at my brand, you had like a, oh, she does a thing, you know?
Yeah.
There's a thing here, there's a theme.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, I'm just like a person. I'm not like a, you know, a marketing mogul. So I don't know. I just kind of intuitively felt into that. That had started, I think, in like 2019, most likely, maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
earlier. Um, and then when the coronavirus hit,
Mm-hmm.
man, things are bleak. So I was personally saving a ridiculous amount of memes, trying to find memes that weren't triggering, but just like funny and that we could
Yeah.
all relate to. Because like, don't buy up the TP again, please, kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know, just
Yeah.
kind of like these jokes where you're just like, what is going on this planet? Let's make
Yeah.
fun of that collectively. Um, so I started to basically just post like a meme dump like every Friday and just be like as many memes as I found, I would just keep sending, you know, putting them in
Yeah.
and then they would like kind of cycle all weekend. I would just keep trying to put as many in there. And the response I got from that was so good. It was so nice to see like just people were just like, oh God, thank you. Some funny stuff that isn't like
Yeah.
immediately triggering. I mean, like people can get triggered if they want to, but for the most part, it was very like just across the board. We can all agree that this is a weird world that we're living in
Yeah.
right now, and let's just focus on that universal agreement of
Yeah.
what the heck is happening. And so, and I can't stand logical fallacies. It's a big problem for me. So those are my favorite memes. Are all the logical fallacy memes where it's just like, what is even going on?
Yeah.
You know, if this, then this, what? So, you know, there was just a lot of that. And that really, I think got me through 2020, honestly, was just posting those memes and enjoying chit-chatting with people. And, you know, people would respond with something that happened in their day and I would talk back to them because, you know, it was just nice to talk to people about, you know, little silly things to kind of just lighten the mood, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of how that evolved. It was just it started off as me just wanting to have a little funny, you know,
Yeah.
little extra jokes.
Well, and I do like too the fact that some of it too was having the aesthetic on the Instagram feed because I feel like that is something that it can be very difficult. I did it for a while. I did the same exact thing where I did quotes and it was, you know, the kind of checkerboard look.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a struggle because then I wasn't saving them as much as I should have and finding the right ones. And for me, the quotes were like motivational and inspiring. And it would get to a point where I'm like, I can't find a single quote that speaks to me today. And it's going to ruin my entire feed, you know? And I think that's something to
And
keep
then
in
it's just
mind
like
for
dead
anyone.
silence
Yes,
on your
for
feed.
anyone
You're all
who's
like, I don't know what to post.
yes. And I think that for you, it's finding something that you really do enjoy going out and finding the memes and saving them and the jokes and the funnies and coming up with them because, you know, I think if you force it, it becomes difficult. But if it
Yeah.
feels natural and it's fun and it's enjoyable and it gives you something to do, you know, and especially for you, it's like you're doing all of this research finding funny memes, it's got to be a mood boost
Yeah.
doing the research.
I'm like, what, guys? I'm working.
And exactly.
Are you looking at memes again? Shush, I'm working.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Was that one of the reels? I think that was a big reel audio for a while where they said, what are you doing? I'm working. I swear I'm working.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that kind of, you know, I'm just remembering now, I think around the same time that I started doing the memes, I had found this indie artist on Instagram, or not Instagram, sorry, on Spoonflower. Are you familiar with Spoonflower?
Mm-mm.
Spoonflower is kind of amazing.
Is it fabric?
Yeah, it's an indie designed fabrics website, totally expensive. But but you get to support indie artists, so you know the price of what we do. But but I found this lady so wonderful, and she had these snarky quotes in like just, you know, pretty little florals, and then it's just like I'm a ray of sunshine, you know, and you're just like, oh God.
Yes.
My word.
Yeah.
And she has some that didn't have curse words, some that did, you know, and so it was a big risk, and but it was so like bold and something that nobody really had at the time that I was like, well, it makes me laugh and I'm getting bored with what I'm doing, so let me see what I can find. And I reached out to her. She's a marvelous woman. Her name's Cynthia Frenetti. And she just was very awesome. I think it was like really early in her career. It was like 3, 4, 5 years ago. At this point, I have no idea. Time is, but she had some stuff, and I asked her to do some knitting once, and she did. And we had some, you know, like I knit or I crochet so I don't kill people, you know, either direction. Always try to be equal opportunity, knit and crochet, because we love both. And they're both amazing. So yeah, so she did that, and she actually made us some special fabrics that of course she could sell. I mean, I was just like giving her ideas basically, and like, yeah, do it. And so that was a big deal. Now I did lose some customers. I know I got some grumpy emails saying, you know, you're cursing on your stuff and I don't like that. I'm like, I know, that's the hard part, but they're pretty, and you can scroll by them. There's more. It's not cursy. But you know, then we came out with mostly sweary, where we use like all these silly words like ash hole and you know, bull shirt and, you know, forking. Things like that, just to kind of be funny. And then we went and we did one that was like I was kind of suggesting ideas to her. I was like, what about the one that just said like, maybe swearing will help. That way it's not actually swearing on the bag.
Yes, that's funny.
We all know what we're thinking here. Yeah. So we were doing things like that, and I use bad words, you know, things like that. And it just kind of took off. And so she actually came up with the name Swearapy, which I thought was hilarious, because at this point it was kind of swearapy. In fact, you know, things would get really harsh in the world, and Cindy and I in the office, and Cindy does all the shipping and all of the amazing listings and everything. She's like my Girl Friday. She and I just really have been working together for like 9-10 years now, and or maybe more. And and we would sometimes have bad days, you know, where we were both just like, man, okay, we need some swearapy. And so we'd open up what Cynthia had been working on and see what she's going on, and we just, okay, we're having a pre-order, you know, and so people don't know that, but a lot of our pre-orders that were swearapy were for us, because we just wanted to cuss in the office, like just unabashedly, like just, you know, where's that FDFS? You know, just like, it's good to have a working relationship with someone you can discuss like nobody's even. And you both walk out and everybody's like, oh, look at the soccer moms. Like, yes. We're just so proper. No,
and I feel that way at home, because I do try to keep things pretty PG when I'm, you know, on Instagram or even on my lives, because I think it just goes back to like being raised in a way that's like, you don't talk like that. But then when the camera's off and I'm talking to my husband, it's like, oh, good Lord, did that just come out of my mouth? So definitely, but I try, and then of course I have, you know, my one specific design that's F off I'm crocheting and F off I'm knitting.
Yeah.
But even then I say that. I say F off because I'm like, I don't need to say, that.
Yeah.
But then I turn the camera off and I'm, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right. We just came out with a fabric that this last pre-order that said soul of a mermaid, mouth of a sailor. That was my
Mhm.
favorite one. I was like, I'm making one of those for me.
Yeah. Well, let me see. Okay, we have like 5 minutes left. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about, because I've had a few conversations, a lot of the people that I bring on to these live sessions, run their own business. That's whether it's selling crocheted items or, making hooks or any of these things, they have found a way to make either additional income or full-time income doing, something within the fiber world. But what that ends up doing is it gets us into this headspace of not being willing to or able to enjoy the craft personally anymore. And I would love to know what your experience has been with that. I know for me, it's very difficult sometimes to just like make something for myself if I'm not going to be able to monetize it, if it's not going to be a pattern, if I'm not going to sell the finished item. So what has that been like for you? And do you still have time or find time for yourself to knit or crochet for yourself?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's definitely a lot of people say like don't do something you love because you'll stop loving it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it has been a struggle, and probably for a good 10 of the 15 years, I really didn't knit that regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was very rare. It was like maybe at a show if I was bored or just to have something to do with my hands kind of thing. Because otherwise, like I was always doing stuff, it was
Yeah.
just not, it was
Mm-hmm.
like when I started knitting, it was something for me to do when I was watching TV.
Yeah.
Then I started a business and I was doing stuff for the business while I
Yeah.
was watching TV.
Yeah.
So, idle hands the hands were no longer idle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for a good 10 years, it was very spotty. And it was hard to stay motivated to cast on new things. These days, it's a little different. In the past, I'd say the good past year, I have picked up the needles again and
Mm-hmm.
have been enjoying them because I do not like sitting and watching TV without my hands doing something. It's definitely
Yeah.
something that feels weird. But of course, now my eyes are starting to get a little difficult. So now I'm like, I need light. But
Yeah.
so what I do actually at this point, and I have kind of a resurgence. I even have my knitting right here right now. Is as I've been knitting on straight needles, sometimes circulars, but these are
Mm-hmm.
straight hilariously. Is I've been kind of just making gauntlets for my like basically like for my arms, like for my
Yeah.
hands. And
Yep.
then I just like knit them sideways and then stick a little thumb hole and then sew them up the thing because when we go camping or when we go places, I have a thyroid condition, so my hands and feet get super cold,
Yeah.
and so I've been just knitting those because you can do them anywhere. They're just garter stitch,
Yeah.
so it's just kind of a easy like keep my hands busy, and then I have these really cute gauntlets later on that I can wear under my
Yeah.
jackets and stuff that make me feel warmer and happier in that situation. So and
Yeah.
then sometimes I make a little beanie or a cowl or something for a family member, but I haven't really been like super interested in like learning all the new techniques right now. It's been more of just therapy of
Yeah.
mind and hands and just kind of going back to the basics because that's kind of what the last like 6 months have been for me is trying to figure out the basics where I was, how far I've come in 15 years and where I'm at and mentally what do I want to do and how do I want to proceed and
Mm-hmm.
it's just been a lot of soul searching to be honest. Just trying to figure out what's the next step for Laura and Slip Stitch Studios.
And that's a big piece. I mean, it's almost like that feeling that people have when they retire. And it's like, what do I do now? Because most people don't just want to stop doing anything. They move on and have like a second career or a second, life piece of like doing something totally different or doing something similar but in a different way. I think that was my dad, he was a mechanical engineer and he worked in like new product development for Rheem water heaters. And when he retired, he went on to start teaching at a university for new product development. So he's been doing that for like 10 years after retiring. So it was like a whole new career but it was so much more fulfilling for him getting to teach. Like he loves teaching. And so I think this idea, now in this world where so many people are using their creativity to start businesses, we have to know there's probably going to be a point where we say, I'm ready to do something else, and follow this next creative dream. And, I think it gets more difficult when you bring in this idea of like, you do have people who still want Slip Stitch Studios to remain doing exactly what it's doing. And it's figuring out how to say like, I love you guys and I love this, still in a way, but we have to figure something out because it's time for me to figure out what the next piece of this is and what the next adventure is going to be, and I think a lot of people will follow along and be excited, and the people that aren't, that's okay too, because there's going to be new people that want to follow Laura and Slip Stitch Studios and on the next steps of the adventure, So I think
figuring out what those steps are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fun part.
And it takes time. Yeah, it takes time. And I'm excited to see what happens and where you go and what these new things are. And I would love to see some of your garden. You should do some stories and stuff on Instagram of like what you're doing in your garden if you want to. That's what I've started doing too, because we this is our first
crossover.
Yes, and that's this year. I started sharing more garden stories. I actually went live in our garden not too long ago, just because it's the biggest garden we've had this year, with like squash and cucumbers and tomatoes and Nice. So it's exciting. And growing your own food, really cool.
Yeah, the idea of growing food from kitchen scraps too is like super feels like a superpower right now. Like I'm just I'm like, if you knew all the potatoes I have right now, because in the past, they sprout and I would just be like, those are done.
Yeah.
Throw them in the trash. And now I'm like, gold.
Yeah. Yes.
I waited too long and now I have plants.
Even more food. Yes.
So
That's
simple,
awesome.
so wonderful.
Well, I'm so happy that you came on today and we're willing to chat and share, what's going on in your life and all of this other stuff with everyone who joined in today. For anyone who's watching, if you joined in late and you want to catch the replay, this will remain on my Instagram feed. But I also have a playlist on my YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/pinksheepdesign. This will be uploaded there within the next hour or two, but you can watch all of the past Pink Sheep Design interviews as well as this one over on YouTube as well, if that's easier. I know for a lot of people, it's a lot easier to have YouTube playing than Instagram. So yes, let's see. Yeah. And this is weekly now. So you can join in every Friday for new Pink Sheep and Friends, make some new friends. I hope you will go check out Laura on her Instagram page, show her some love, and follow her for more creative adventures and wonderful, funny, humorous quotes that might be a little snarky, but that's awesome. So until next time, thank you again, Laura, for coming on, and thanks to everyone who joined in, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thanks for listening.